Greetings, I'm Kris Brown on the path of Tz'ikin, here with a blessing from 8 Bots. Sometimes clarity arrives suddenly from a realization, a boundary, a truth we can no longer unknow. And then comes another invitation to pause, to notice what is settling now that the intensity of seeing has softened. 8 Bots reminds me that wisdom is not only found in revelation, but in what remains after revelation has done its work. The sacred thread does not need to be chased. It could be felt. It begins with noticing, not analyzing and not diagnosing, just noticing. There's something that happens in the body before the mind has found words for it. A slight tightening in the chest, a quickened breath, a low hum of restlessness that wants to move outward before we have even asked it what it needs. Sometimes it arrives as urgency, sometimes as a pull toward explanation or defense. Sometimes it arrives as the impulse to fix, to withdraw, to reach for reassurance that we are okay, that we are still loved, that we are still safe. These are not problems to solve, they are signals, invitations, and noticing them, even briefly, is the first act of self-trust. Then comes the choosing. This is the tender part, because the impulse doesn't go quiet just because we've seen it. It still wants to move. It still carries its momentum, and we're not suppressing it or shaming it or telling it to disappear. We're simply choosing in that breath not to be carried by it yet. We're choosing to stay even for a moment, even just long enough to place a hand on the chest and feel what is actually happening beneath the impulse. That choice, each time we make it, is a thread. A thread. When we ask ourselves, what is it about me that is activated by this? Not who caused this, or how do I make this stop? But what within me is asking to be seen, heard, or held right now? It helps to hold this question lightly. It's not a demand. It's not an interrogation. It's closer to an offering, a hand extended inward, an honest willingness to receive whatever is ready to surface. And then I listen. Not with the part of me that already knows the answer and wants to confirm it, but with the part of me that is willing to be surprised. I feel into the body and allow whatever is present to take its shape. Maybe it's an old story rising, or grief, or possibly a fear of being misunderstood, left behind, unseen, or unchosen. Perhaps something quieter, something that doesn't yet have a name, only a feeling of weight, or of longing, or of a younger self who is still waiting to be told that she is enough. Maybe nothing comes immediately. This is also information. Sometimes the invitation is simply to remain, to not abandon the inquiry just because it doesn't yield quickly. To understand that staying in relationship with ourselves, even in silence, even in uncertainty, it itself a form of weaving. The invitation is to remain in relationship with ourselves long enough for something honest to emerge. Bats teaches us that we are always weaving. Each moment of pause before reacting becomes another strand of trust. Each moment of staying present with ourselves instead of abandoning ourselves in order to belong strengthens this thread. And over time, trust is no longer something we seek. It becomes the natural result of knowing that we are willing to stay with ourselves, listen deeply, and weave our lives from what remains true after clarity has illuminated the path. On this 8 bats, may I remember that wisdom is not only what I suddenly understand, but what quietly settles into place when I choose to pause, listen, and remain with myself long enough to hear the sacred thread speaking within. May humanity tune in with a pause, notice what is activated, and ask, what is this showing me about myself? Listen, feel, and allow. Trust what remains after clarity has illuminated the path. Many blessings.